concept of war is as old as time. Two or more opposing forces clashing to a tragic and fatal end. As an American serviceman who's been stationed abroad, I've witnessed what war means in this day and age. Wars that most of us are familiar with: the Vietnam conflict, World War I and II, and most recently, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. But one that is equally important, yet regarded as the forgotten war, is the Korean War. To truly understand the Korean War, it's important to look at the state of the nation at the end of World War II, the rise of two governments, the invasion of South Korea, the retaliation, and finally the armistice and beyond. Korea was not always an independent country. In 1945, the conclusion of World War II, Korea was under Japanese expansionist rule. President Truman and Premier Stalin agreed to divide the newly independent country at the 38th parallel. This was to only last for 5 years, as it was meant to stabilize the country and allow time to form a single Korean government. The Soviets wanted their communist sympathizers put in positions of power throughout the newly formed single government, but the United States was in strict opposition to that. The United States was unsure of its policy and strategic value of South Korea, so we were slow to create the long-range alternative plans after our occupation ended, whereas the Soviet Union consolidated its power in the North. We began to question the defensibility of South Korea against a growing communist force in the North. Small provisional governments were created in the South, headed by Syngman Rhee, yet the United States didn't officially recognize the provisional governments and instead chose to impose American military rule. Among civil unrest, America brought the Korea issue to the United Nations in 1947. The UN General Assembly recognized Korea as an independent state and made preparations for the establishment of one government and planned the withdrawal of occupying forces. However, the Soviet Union didn't want to relinquish control of the North. Two separate regimes were to be established in the Korean Peninsula. Every nation needs a leader, even one divided. On August 15, 1948, South Korea became the Republic of Korea, and Syngman Rhee became the first president. A month later, the North became the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and Premier Kim Il-sung became its first leader. The South Korean Army was created in September of 1948, and by June of 1949, the United States withdrew our occupational forces. Syngman Rhee lived in the United States before returning to Korea after Japan's defeat in World War II. He was known for his strong anti-communism sentiment and led campaigns to remove communism from the peninsula. Rhee enacted laws that jailed his political opponents and established an authoritarian rule. His government oversaw massacres of suspected communists and North Korean agents. He was elected to 4 terms in office after amending the Constitution to say he was allowed unlimited terms. He finally resigned in 1960 and was exiled to Hawaii among civil unrest, where he lived until his death. Kim Il-sung is considered the father of communism in North Korea. He fled Japanese rule of Korea to the Soviet Union, where he served in the rank of major in the Soviet Red Army until the end of World War II. Upon his return to Korea, after 26 years of exile, he was placed into power by Stalin. He established the Korean People's Army, which were equipped with Russian tanks, trucks, artillery, and aircraft. He was the originator of the personality cult that also surrounded his son, Kim Jong-il, and now grandson, Kim Jong-un. He was regarded as the great leader. He ruled North Korea from its creation in 1948 until his death in 1994 and is considered the eternal president of North Korea. During the early stages of Korea's creation, unification became priority to Kim Il-sung. On June 24, 1950, North Korea invaded South Korea. In response, the UN passed a resolution authorizing military action. The United States came to the aid of South Korea to repel the invasion. Within months, UN forces were pushed back to the southern coastal city of Busan before North Koreans could be stopped. The UN then launched a successful counteroffensive that drove North Korean forces past the 38th parallel and almost to the Yalu River, which forms the border between China and Korea. That was when China got involved in the war and repelled our forces back across the 38th parallel, now referred to as the DMZ. For 2 years, a stalemate at the DMZ was held with neither side gaining any territory. An armistice was signed on July 27, 1953. There were an estimated 10 million military and civilian casualties as a result of the Korean War. The definition of armistice is a temporary cessation of fighting. The Korean War has never officially ended. It is yet to be settled by a peace treaty and has been going on for more than 60 years. Since the armistice, conditions on the peninsula have been tumultuous at best. South Korea's First Lady was assassinated, as covered by a news article in the British newspaper The Guardian, dated August 16, 1974. As then President Park Chung-hee was addressing a crowd of about 1,500 in Seoul, a North Korean agent fired a shot at the stage, hitting his wife by mistake. Also covered in The Guardian was a bombing in Burma, where the South Korean president was holding an emergency cabinet meeting after cutting short a 6-country tour. 20 people were killed, including 4 South Korean cabinet members. North Korea was blamed in the attack. Recent events include the 2006 test firing of North Korean long-range missiles, the 2008 killing of a South Korean tourist by a North Korean soldier, and the 2009 formal withdrawal of the armistice by North Korea. In summary, to remember the forgotten war that divided the land of the morning calm, you must first look at the state of the nation at the end of the World War II, then how 2 separate governments emerged, how the North invaded the South, the war itself, and finally how the war wages on today. War is never pleasant, but they have been instrumental in shaping the world we live in today. Hopefully, this insight into the Korean world will help abolish the forgotten moniker and help establish its place in the halls of history.